Saying that Columbus discovered America is a bloody joke. That was a continent with millions of people living there, another thriving civilization. As a child, I never understood what reservations meant. Later, I realized it's like a thief killed your family members and stealing your mansion and then giving you a toilet to live in, all while claiming they are being generous to you and even say they saved you. How contradictory is that? Columbus wasn't some great explorer, he simply got lost. He was looking for Asia, but accidentally landed in the Caribbean. From there, history turned dark. When we were children, our history books described Columbus' discovery of the New World as something of great significance. Obviously, that's a Western, American-centered narrative. For a long time, Chinese textbooks also gave Columbus a positive image. I guess your country's textbooks might be similar. Luckily, modern Chinese history books have corrected some of this, adding more about indigenous civilizations and the devastating consequences of the colonization, more objective. Columbus' diary described the Taino people as friendly, generous, and willing to share gifts and food, but he then wrote that they would make excellent slaves. He enslaved them, forcing them to mine for gold. If they didn't bring enough, they would cut off their hands and leave them to bleed to death. Just a few decades, hundreds of thousands of the Taino population were almost completely wiped out. Apart from direct killing, the diseases brought by European colonizers were even more deadly. This pattern repeated everywhere. For example, Britain colonized and invaded 178 countries. Around 90% of indigenous populations died within a century. It was one of the largest human die-offs in history, and more importantly, their entire civilizations disappeared. Ironically, they are chanting cultural diversity in other countries. Yet the man who triggered this destruction was honored with holidays. The US has Columbus Day, Spain has National Day based on Columbus, Puerto Rico celebrates the discovery of Puerto Rico Day, Argentina has Day of Respect for Cultural Diversity based on Columbus too. Venezuela, on the other hand, created Indigenous Resistance Day to honor native resistance to colonization. Caracas even torn down Columbus' statue and renamed the street. Columbus Day was first celebrated in New York City in 1792. It became a federal holiday in 1937 thanks to lobbying by Italian-American groups facing discrimination. That's understandable, by the way, but Italy is a great nation with brilliant artists and scientists. Why not choose someone like Leonardo da Vinci or Galileo to honor instead of Columbus? In fact, Columbus was arrested by Spain in 1500 for his cruelty, yet the holiday continues to glorify conquest and violence. Many indigenous people see Columbus Day as a deliberate erasure of their history, a spiritual insult that has lasted 233 years until now. The US State Department publishes annual human rights reports criticizing other countries, but never seriously addressing indigenous human rights at home. Even today, only 7 out of the 50 US states recognize Indigenous Peoples Day exclusively. Without Columbus Day, it's already 2025. Why can't they face history, admit mistakes, and acknowledge this genocide and the destruction of civilizations? The indigenous people are now your countrymen. Indigenous peoples still live in the legacy of colonization, keep losing land, over 500 broken treaties, a disappearance and murder rate 10 times the national average, 1 in 4 living below poverty line, and less than 1% representation in Congress staff. Their stories are almost invisible internationally. Many Chinese people even think Native Americans were completely wiped out long ago because it's hard to hear from them. In China, some people call the US the beacon of democracy or the beacon of civilization because of America's self-image. But how the US treated indigenous peoples has nothing to do with civilization. Native American civilizations have largely disappeared, leaving only traces. And even those who are being erased by different levels of US government today, Columbus' story is merely the opening chapter of colonial history in the Americas. Indigenous Peoples Day is meant to correct Columbus Day, but why do 43 states still celebrate and honor a man who opened the door to genocide and the destruction of a civilization? Indigenous civilizations should have been a treasure not only for the Americas, but for all humanity, part of the world's cultural heritage. When will the US government, known for destroying, learn to protect heritage, face its history, value human rights, make real corrections, and eventually be a real beacon of civilization? Can they just switch from Columbus Day to the Indigenous Peoples Day first? Follow me, an East perspective to see the world.